The King's Avatar, Chapter 1243 Art Book Signing, Audio Source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1243, Art Book Signing. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Chen Guo had by now entirely abandoned her original plans for Christmas Eve. By the time Fang Rui, Qiao Yivan, and Wen Yi, and the others entered, she voluntarily told him to pick their presents. By the end, the planned gift matchups had become a complete mess, resulting in hilarious pairings that everyone was laughing over. Chen Guo's initial bit of unhappiness quickly faded away. What was the point of giving gifts? Wasn't it just to make people happy? And now everyone was so happy, there was nothing wrong with this. It looked like the surprise element of this random selection was really quite exciting. The presents that Chen Guo had gotten weren't just for the players. The in-game department, the R&D department, these were also crucial components of Happy. Chen Guo had done a head count and gotten enough presents for everyone. These workers didn't work in the practice room, but Chen Guo quickly called them over. Wu Chen and the others came over and picked their presents, and their unwrapping brought another wave of enjoyment. Guan Rongfei was a bit disappointing though. He had to be forcefully dragged over here, his face filled with reluctance. He charged over, snatched a present, and left, spending a total of less than 10 seconds in the practice room before vanishing. At the end, everyone finished picking their presents and chattering about their suitable or unsuitable presents. Everyone's eyes fell upon Chen Guo, and the final two presents hanging on the Christmas tree. Huh? Chen Guo was surprised. Is someone missing? She asked. The presents had been counted correctly, and she hadn't chosen yet, so by logic there should only be one present left. But in her memory, everyone in Happy had arrived. Even Guan Rongfei, who had only existed here for 10 seconds. Chen Guo had clearly seen him holding something as he left. If there was no choice at the end, wouldn't that be very boring? Yishi said. Oh. Chen Guo heard something significant in his voice, and turned back to look at the tree. Two presents, one very familiar to her eyes, undoubtedly one that she had prepared, and the other. You put it there? Chen Guo asked Yishu. It's your turn to pick now, Yishu said. Chen Guo was startled. She never would have expected that at the very end, there'd be this little surprise left to her. If she was choosing, then of course she'd pick the one that she didn't know, but Yishu, that guy, he wouldn't have randomly and hastily thrown something together just to make fun of her, would he? Like a half-smoked pack of cigarettes or something? Something like that, Chen Guo felt that Yishu could easily do. But Chen Guo walked up and studied it. That unfamiliar present was wrapped just as neatly as the others. It definitely didn't look like something that was slapped together last minute. Was it also carefully prepared? Chen Guo felt a bit moved. She didn't hesitate any longer, and plucked from the tree this present that had been specially prepared for her. What is it? Chen Guo wanted to see what it was, and yet was a bit nervous at the same time. You'll know once you open it, Yishu smiled. It's something that you really wanted. Something that I really want. Chen Guo was at a loss. At the moment, she couldn't think of anything that she really wanted, and was even less clear on how Yishu would know. The present was very light, and when Chen Guo took it, she did wonder if it was a half-empty pack of cigarettes or something. But hearing Yishu say this, Chen Guo felt that this wouldn't be some prank. She unwrapped the package, lifted out the paper box inside, opened it, and saw a card, a Christmas card. This was what she really wanted? Chen Guo was puzzled, and in her heart there was the tiniest trace of disappointment. She took out the card and opened it. At the top was written, in Nantu elegant handwriting, "What you've always wanted, as you wish." And then, 2 signatures. Yi Chu. Su Muchung. Stunned. Chen Guo flashed back to several years ago. Back when she was just an ordinary fan alongside all of the other Excellent Era fans, passionately supporting Excellent Era, loving Yi Chu and Su Muchung, these two gods. Of course, autographs from the gods were things that they all wanted. And then afterwards, on that snowy night, Happy Internet Cafe saw the arrival of a stranger, who used Chen Guo's account to defeat an opponent in the arena in 40 seconds, and then asked to become an Internet Cafe employee. At the time, Chen Guo thought that this was some nobody kicked out of his team with nowhere to go. She invited him to stay, encouraged him, and jokingly asked that when he returned to the professional circle, he would get Yi Chu's and Su Muchung's autographs for her. That had just been a joke. Chen Guo hadn't been serious. But 2 years later, she received this Christmas gift. The autograph itself didn't mean anything anymore. If Chen Guo wanted a signature from Yi Chu or Su Muchung now, she only need to say the word. But it was exactly this point that reminded her. The Chen Guo of today was no longer one of those ordinary fans that could only quietly support their idols from afar. She stood right beside the people she had once worshipped. They were friends, and they fought together. This time, she was no longer a bystander. She was a participant. Team Happy. It had Yi Chu, it had Su Muchung, and it had her, and it had everyone. This was the meaning behind these two signatures. Chen Guo instantly understood, and she felt the tears welling up in her eyes. But so many people were watching, and if she cried now that would just be too embarrassing. Chen Guo quickly turned away and rubbed at her face. Fiercely gathering her emotions, she waved the card around and said, This is just. Chen Guo wanted to make a joke, wanted to say, this is just too cheap, but she truly couldn't get it out, because she understood the significance of this card. She wanted to pretend she didn't understand, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. Fuck just 2 signatures, that's so lame. So shameless. Quote. In the end, she didn't say it, but someone else did for her. What was the present? WuxRWorldAudio.com. This was something everyone was curious about, and they had all politely waited for the revelation. But Wei Chen was never that kind of person, and barged over to take a look. Seeing what was written on the card, he hadn't thought as much as Chen Guo did. He immediately treated this as a prank that Yi Chu was pulling, and began to condemn him. And you too. Quote. After scolding Yi Chu, Wei Chen turned on Su Muchung. You're just as shameless as old Yi. Our boss doesn't have it easy. She pulled together this Christmas celebration for us, and you to use your pathetic signatures as a gift to brush her off. If you're going to give signatures, at least have everyone sign it. Don't cry, lady boss. Come, I'll sign for you too. Sign, everyone come and sign. Chen Guo called, but she had already closed the card. She returned to that Christmas tree and retrieved the final gift that no one had chosen. We'll just sign this. Quote. This final present was opened, and it turned out to be an art book. Chen Guo had prepared all of the presents, and so she had an idea of which present was which just from the wrapping. This art book was merchandise that Happy itself had produced. The pages were filled with art of their characters, made by professional artists based on the character designs. To invite everyone to sign their names on this, it couldn't be any more meaningful. The art book was printed. Wei Chen took the book and flipped through it. Everyone knew that Happy was producing this, but they had no idea that it was already out, so Chen Guo obtained a copy from the first round of printing to serve as a present. Not bad. Wei Chen quickly flipped to the page with his windward formation, and he was very satisfied with the image of the warlock in the middle of casting. Look at me, look at me. The other Happy players all swarmed over. Even Mo Fan, this antisocial person, was curious at this moment. He left his seat, but still maintained a distance of 2 meters from everyone, as though he were still considering whether or not he should join in. Ha, Mo Fan's here, so sneaky, so graceful. The person in question hadn't even arrived, but everyone was already commenting on Deception's page. They then turned to look for Mo Fan, and saw his hesitating figure 2 meters away. Come and take a look. Soo Chung invited him, and after a tiny bit more hesitation, Mo Fan finally came over. In the image, a masked ninja carefully crept along, indeed looking very sneaky. This was him. Mo Fan really didn't think he should look like this, but looking at everyone around him, they all seemed to think this was very accurate. Sign your name. Chen Guo passed a pen to him, preparing to let Mo Fan be the first to sign the art book. Mo Fan tentatively accepted the pen. Under the eyes of everyone watching, his writing hand trembled a bit. The written characters weren't much in the first place, and with this they suddenly became more askew. Your handwriting really needs work, Fang Rui said from the side. Here, let me show you guys my golden right hand. After speaking, he took the pen from Mo Fan, flipped to the page with Chi Master Boundless Sea, and signed the 2 characters. Fang Rui, with a flourish. How about it? It's 100 times better, right? Fang Rui even flipped back to Deception's page to compare. Indeed, his signature was much better. Those that wanted to speak up for Mo Fan couldn't open their mouths. Try writing a 3rd character, Yi Zhu said. Go away. Fang Rui had already swiftly passed the pen to someone else. Everyone paused, but understood soon enough. Fang Rui was an all-star level player, and definitely wasn't a stranger to signing autographs. No matter whether or not he practiced on purpose, after signing so many, he would definitely be practiced enough to have a good-looking signature. But aside from these 2 characters of his name, how good he was at writing any other characters remained to be discussed. The art book continued to be passed along, everyone signing their name on the page of their character, and was finally passed to Chen Guo. She flipped through the pages, silent until she reached the end, when she said, "When you have time, you should practice your signatures." Aside from Fang Rui and Soo Chung, who had to sign things often, only Tang Rou had a rather eye-pleasing signature. Of the rest of them, none of them could be brought on stage, not even Yi Zhu's. When Fang Rui took a look at it, he fell over. "And you criticized me. Your 3rd character isn't any good either." Everyone looked at Lord Grimm's page. The 2 written characters, Yi Zhu, no matter how they looked at them, were awkward and misaligned. Chen Guo was stunned for a while, then pulled out the cards she had received. Once she compared them, she understood. Yi Zhu was incomparably practiced at signing. Yi Zhu, even though he never revealed his face, he still would often sign merchandise for the team, at the level that Soo Chung and Fang Rui had to. But now, he had to sign Yi Zhu. This Yi was still the same, but the Zhu couldn't keep up with the rhythm at all. Then, putting the 2 characters together, it was even uglier than the chaotic mess of equipment worn by Lord Grimm. It looked like Yi Zhu's Zhu was, unfortunately, his 3rd character. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1244 All Stars, Audio Source, WuShoWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1244, All Stars. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Early in the morning, Team Happy had already finished celebrating what was originally supposed to be the most lively holiday, Christmas Eve. Afterwards, Christmas Day wasn't a holiday for them. The things that they need to do still had to be done, and the matches that they had to play still had to be played. Originally, Yishu wanted to remind everyone to maintain a steady mental state for the next match, but after seeing their opponent for the next week, he had no way of saying these words out loud. On the 27th of December, round 17 of the regular season, Happy's opponent was Team Bright Green. After round 16, Team Bright Green had only accumulated 30 points and was ranked second from last. The gap between them and the 18th place team had already risen to 14 points. Along with Team Seaside, they were considered to be the two teams who would be relegated without suspense this season. Faced with a team with such an awful record, Yishu felt that nagging the team about being cautious and prudent was somewhat excessive. The alliance could be said to not have any weak teams, with examples of strong teams being defeated everywhere. Even so, for a playoff team facing against a team struggling to keep their place, simply having the appropriate attitude would be good enough. Any serious talk about not underestimating their opponents could instead backfire and cause the team members to lose confidence. Thus, at the end of the day, Yishu didn't say anything unnecessary, only getting ready in the same way they normally did. Preparing against the opponents, coming up with strategies. They didn't belittle their opponents, but neither did they attach too much importance to them. Team Happy, who was in their peak condition, naturally didn't get defeated in an upset by Team Bright Green. In their away match, they scored a grand 10-0, once again catching up with Team Samsara's perfect sweep record. In Team Samsara's away game against Team Conquering Clouds, they accidentally lost an individual match, resulting in a 9-1 victory. Team Samsara thus remained with 6 10-0 victories under their belt. At the same time, Tyranny, Blue Rain and Wind Howl all achieved landslide victories in their away games. Tiny Herb lost in a surprise loss against Heavenly Swords after a fierce battle in the same city. But in terms of the number of fans, it could be said that the number of Tiny Herb fans completely overwhelmed the number of Heavenly Swords fans. Yet in Glory, the most benefit of playing a home game wasn't just the fans' support received. More importantly, having the right to select the map was more crucial. In this round, after winning one individual competition, Heavenly Sword suffered defeat after defeat, but finally pulled off a strong comeback in the team competition, defeating Tiny Herb with a score of 6-4. It was just one tiny victory, but it was enough to make the brothers at Heavenly Swords go crazy with excitement. From their debut in the professional league until now, this was their first time defeating a true powerhouse team. It wasn't too long ago when the team was formed and the rich kids from Heavenly Swords were in high spirits, fantasizing about winning the championships until Yishu helped them to come back to reality. Thus, when they entered the alliance, they started off carefully and cautiously, and finally realized the true gap between reality and their expectations. Glory champions. To them, this was truly too distant a goal. Heavenly Sword's cautious progression seemed to be the most suited for their specific circumstances. But deep in their hearts, could the players from Heavenly Swords really be satisfied dithering around near the relegation zone? Their dream of winning the championships was something that they just carefully kept away, but it wasn't something that they had completely given up on. They weren't the kind of people who accepted mediocrity after facing reality. They persevered and worked hard, but their team roster being fixed meant that they couldn't rely on external helpers to increase their fighting strength. They could only increase the strength of their characters and equipment, but otherwise, it was all up to their individual bitter trang. But in this season, Heavenly Swords results couldn't be said to have improved very much. The bunch from Heavenly Swords may have been a bit too idealistic, but they didn't actually believe themselves to be infallible. With these results, it was inevitable that they would begin to doubt themselves somewhat, feeling that they only had so much skill and glory. Could they really achieve greater heights? But at this very moment, they had unexpectedly defeated Team Tiny Herb. This tiny victory had ignited a single answer in their hearts: we can. No matter what the reason was, if they could win this round, they could win a second round, or a third. With enough successive victories, who could say that the dream hidden deep within their hearts was unreachable? God, isn't that right? This glorious and uplifting victory for Heavenly Swords led Lu Guanning to specially discuss it with Happy. Yes, that's exactly right. Keep working hard. Yishu replied. Alright, you too. Happy New Year in advance. Lu Guanning called. Right, it was close to the new year already. Round 17 had ended on the 27th of December. The next week was a winter break for the Pro Alliance, so the rounds put on hold temporarily, but the once-a-year All-Star Weekend would still happen the following weekend. The voting for the All-Stars had already entered its final stages. The Alliance was counting the votes, the fans were watching closely, and even the pro players would talk about it in their free time. From the start of the voting until now, Joe Zekai's first place in the All-Stars was completely untouchable, and no one had any hopes for such a miracle to take place anymore. But in second place was surprisingly Yishu. The Yishu that had routed Excellent Era in the Challengers League and proclaimed "I'm back" had become a real talking point over the past half a year. When the voting had just begun, there were a few old fans of Yishu and a few people who just went with the crowd who voted for him, allowing him to break into the list of 24 All-Stars. Afterwards, at the start of the regular season when the teams were feeling each other out, aside from one great victory against 100 Blossoms, Happy seemed to be on a losing streak. But after the 8th round when they lost to Tiny Herb, Happy rose abruptly and went on a winning streak, continually winning 10-0 and violently sweeping through the entire alliance. Some conspiracy theorists thought that the difference between Happy's strength at the start and end of the season was too dramatic. They even suspected that Happy was deliberately throwing games at the start of the regular season, waiting till the teams had a good idea of each other's strength before revealing their true prowess and snatching as many points as they could. And from round 2 onwards, Yishu swept through the individual competition without losing a single match. Such a strong player not competing in the group arena and instead competing in the individual rounds from start to finish did draw some criticism from people. But such a trivial matter had no way of diminishing his real battle records. Yishu's individual record was very domineering. Team Happy's record under Yishu's leadership was also very domineering, and this fact caused his all-star votes to continually climb upwards. Both veterans and rookies were watching this already legendary figure. This time around, was he getting ready to create yet another legend? Currently, he had already cemented his name for the number of consecutive individual matches won. And this was a constantly updating record, as he broke his own record again and again. Even until round 17, Yishu's record was unstoppable, and Happy's consecutive victories were unstoppable. Afterwards. For now, there was no afterwards. WuxaWorldAudio.com. The next round of competition would have to wait until next year, and the All-Star voting for this year would end here. Team Happy, which had never participated in the Pro League before, and its players, who mostly had never had the distinction of winning a championship, would naturally have a weaker standing in the All-Star voting. Even so, the matches that Happy had participated in were significant enough, and in defeating Excellent Era, they displayed a might worthy of a playoff-level team. On top of that, in defeating Excellent Era, Happy had created a miracle, and the effects of that miracle were tremendous. Yishu originally had a firm standing in the Glory Circle, and even though he had left for a year and a half, his powerful return meant that it was completely unsurprising for him to have a place in the All-Stars. With his valiant return, and the strength he displayed after his return, his rise in the All-Star rankings was unstoppable. It was now coming to the end of the voting period, and it looked like there was little hope of him catching up to Joe Zekai, but it also looked like his position as number 2 was very stable. Because just behind him was Team Thunderclap's captain, Xiao Shiqin, who was relying on the astonishing results that Thunderclap produced under his leadership this season. After his failure at Excellent Era in the first half of the year, he had returned in full force, surprisingly crushing many top teams. Originally, the number of votes that the two of them had was really too close to call. But on the 20th of December, in the 16th round of the regular season, the two teams faced directly, and Team Thunderclap was defeated 9-1 by Team Happy, indirectly proving an answer to this question. To many of the indecisive fans, their votes depended on the player's performance. Happy defeating Thunderclap indicated that Yishu was stronger than Xiao Shiqin, and so after that day, the results of the struggle gradually became clear. The two players' vote count now had a clear difference between them, and this tussle between second and third place was resolved in this way. Fourth place in the polls went to Tiny Herb's captain, Wang Jieshi. Fifth place belonged to Blue Rain's Wang Xiaoshan, but sixth place was once again taken by a player from Samsara, the new addition to their roster, Sun Shang. People had long become numb to Team Samsara's strength, but this numbness didn't mean that people had overlooked their abilities. Cloud Piercer and One Autumn Leaf, this new duo had attracted explosive amounts of attention from the very beginning. This was a duo between two gods at the peak of glory, one old and one new. Just this topic alone was enough to be discussed for days on end. On top of that, there was Samsara's undefeated winning streak. That's right, undefeated. 17 rounds of competition, and Samsara had won 17 rounds without even a single draw. Victory belonged to every single player in Samsara, but within these people, there would always be those who would shine brighter. The first of them was Zhou Zikai, the second of them was Sun Shang. Afterwards, the value of Zhang Boteo, the vice-captain of Samsara, had long been recognized, and he was in 9th place. In the top 10 ranks of the All-Stars, Samsara had already monopolized 3 of the places, and their grappler, Lu Boyuan, was also ranked at 20th. After transferring to Team 301, the previous All-Star grappler, Li Yui, had gradually lost his former fame, and didn't make it into this year's list of All-Stars. 4 All-Stars. Team Samsara's lineup was truly Xing with talent. What about Team Tyranny, who had 4 All-Stars last season? Now, they only had 2. Zhang Xinjie, ranked 7th, and their captain, Han Wenqing, had fallen out of the top 10 for the first time in his career, and was ranked 12th. In reality, Team Tyranny was currently ranked number 2 in the regular season, but they had very quietly made their way to this position. In the All-Star voting, it was easier for everyone to notice the performances of those with strong, flashy performances. In this season, Team Tyranny had rotated their players. Even Han Wenqing's votes had seen a significant decrease, while Zhang Jiali and Lin Jingyan had finally been dropped from the list of All-Stars. What about new players replacing the old? Regrettably, it was very rare for rookies to appear amongst the ranks of All-Star players. Last season, Gao Yingji and Lu Hanwen received an unprecedented number of votes, but after their novelty faded away, in this season, they didn't even receive as many votes as last year. Tang Ru was originally amongst the rookies who had a great number of votes, but unfortunately, after the 1v3 incident, her votes plummeted. There was no need to consider the top 24, her name couldn't even be found within the top 100 players. Aside from the 4 players, Yishu, Xiao Shiqin, Sun Shang and Sima Cheng, who had returned from the Challengers League and become All-Stars, there was one new name in the list, but it wasn't a newcomer to the Alliance. Team Wind Howl, Lu Hao, and Chapter The King's Avatar, Chapter 1245 The Fortunate and the Regrettable. Audio source, WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1245 The Fortunate and the Regrettable. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Lu Hao had entered the Glory Alliance in Season 5. He had joined Team Excellent Era just after their reign was ended by Team Tyranny. No one had expected such a fall from grace. After all, at the time, they had only lost their streak as champions. In the Pro League, there were always ups and downs. Losing now was no issue, just aim to win next time. Team Excellent Era Season 4 recruit, Suma Cheng, had been astonishing to see with Yi Chu. At the time, Team Excellent Era had still been viewed favorably, with an expectation that they would quickly pull themselves back together. Lu Hao had also carried this type of confidence for Team Excellent Era when he became a member. But who, himself included, would have expected that Excellent Era wouldn't even make it to the finals from this season onwards? Tiny Herb, Blue Rain. Team after team, new champions arose. Player after player, all-stars appeared. But as for Lu Hao, it seemed like Lu Hao of Excellent Era was the only vice-captain of an alliance powerhouse not have been selected as an all-star. This made Lu Hao very dejected. But what could he do about it? Excellent Era already had the ever-radiant Yi Chu. Then appeared the outstanding beauty Suma Chung. They became best partners, and there was no shortage of rumors about a kindling relationship between the two. Besides these two protagonists of the story, not even the vice-captain could escape being given a side character role. Lu Hao didn't want to be a side character. He watched as the others who started in the same season as him became all-stars one by one. Zhou Zikai, Wu Yu's Fang Rui. All-star status meant popularity, but it also required true skill as a foundation. In the pro scene, popularity did not come without skill. Lu Hao did not have this popularity, but he was adamant that he had the skills. The problem was just that he paled in comparison to his ever-radiant senior. Compared to the founder of the dynasty of back-to-back championship victories, who in the alliance would come up short in comparison. Initially, Lu Hao was proud and content that he could share in the glory, but then he realized that this glory was blinding. No one could see him. He wanted to bask in his own glory. But it was so difficult. Enthusiastically showing his talents would put him off rhythm with the rest of the team. Limit himself to the team's pace and he would get outshone by the best partners. This team structure was made for these two and they outshone those around them. Lu Hao thought about this somewhat angrily. What he conveniently failed to think about was that if you picked any random team, of course the core players would be the most prominent. If another player can overshadow the core player's existence, wouldn't they have that title instead? If he wanted to be noticed, he had to establish his own relevance first. Lu Hao, when unable to do so, instead thought up various excuses for why he was not being noticed. This was too backwards. If he had this kind of mindset, then any ordinary arrangement would seem like an elaborate plot to undermine him. Lu Hao really didn't want his radiance extinguished like this, so he continued to search for opportunities. Although Yi Shu's ultimate departure from the team couldn't entirely be called his victory, it was at least an outcome that he was pleased to see. His moment to shine had finally arrived, but right after, Excellent Era was promptly relegated. This outcome was really some miles away from what Lu Hao had expected. However, Excellent Era was still Excellent Era. Even though they were relegated, their influence was still strong, and they even managed to grab the all-star Xiao Shiqin from Thunderclap. Sun Shang filled the gap left by Yishu's departure, but the gap he filled was only the position of one Autumn Leaf's controller. The role played by Yishu in Excellent Era was much greater than that. After all, he was one of the 4 master tacticians. The arrival of Xiao Shiqin was evidence of Excellent Era's prestige as a powerhouse. However, the hidden motive behind these actions was not noticed by many. Sun Shang was not Yishu's successor. The role of successor fell to Sun Shang plus Xiao Shiqin. 2 people to replace 1. Excellent Era definitely could not reveal this intention. Following this addition, Lu Hao found himself heartlessly abandoned. It was at that moment when he realized that he would forever be a side character in Excellent Era. When Yishu left, Excellent Era spared no expense to find a replacement and to quash certain rumors. They even started preparing far in advance. But for Lu Hao, player trade, you're going to Thunderclap. All Lu Hao received was this phone call. Yes, breaking the news to him with a phone call. How much more disrespectful could they get? Forget about a send-off for him. Excellent Era was too busy with welcoming Xiao Shiqin. Lu Hao left with resentment in his heart. He had thought about exposing how Excellent Era had been unhappy with Yi Shu, and how they had schemed to pressure Yi Shu into retirement, while at the same time being afraid of having Yi Shu become an enemy that they would need to face. Excellent Era had been forced into some very careful maneuvering with regards to the issue. But Lu Hao didn't dare. Speaking of reasons for Yi Shu's departure, plenty of rumors were floating around the competitive scene, some more accurate than others. However, those were still simply guesswork from outside observers. How much influence would their words have? The worst a comment here in a remark there could do was to give people something interesting to gossip about. Of course, Lu Hao was not an outside observer. If he decided to blow the whistle, the media would be all over the story. But if he did this, it would not bode well for his future. In the Pro League, which team didn't have some skeletons in their closet? A brave warrior of justice may be loved by the media or the masses, but which team would dare let him join? Lu Hao didn't want to get himself into this lose-lose situation. He still wanted to shine. He should wait until he retired before he exposed the Excellent Era scandal. Lu Hao buried his bitterness towards Excellent Era, who had abandoned him. Who would have guessed that Yi Shu would be the one to avenge him, by eliminating Excellent Era with a grassroots team? Life is just absurd. Lu Hao absent-mindedly thought this at the time. I didn't do anything at all, but the person I hate and the team I hate are locked in a battle to the death. What kind of luck is this? Lu Hao reflected upon his good luck, but then that year he still didn't make it into the All-Stars, what he dreamed about for so long. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. It's because my team is too shit. Lu Hao thought this helplessly. His performance in Thunderclap that season wasn't bad at all. The team performed reasonably well too, but still did not manage to make it to the playoffs. That meant Lu Hao was still no match for Xiao Shiqin. So in that season, everyone in Thunderclap, from top to bottom, missed their former captain Xiao Shiqin. Lu Hao felt repulsed being confined in this atmosphere. Even a person long gone still outshone him. Thunderclap was even worse than Excellent Era. Lu Hao originally did not want to stay long at Thunderclap. Add on his disgust for the atmosphere in the team, and he directly turned down Thunderclap's request for him to stay for the next season. He moved to Team Wind Howl of his own accord. It looked like standing out in this team wasn't going to be an easy task. Just as he was beginning to more carefully consider his situation, issues arose within Wind Howl and Vice-Captain Fang Rui left the team. Lu Hao got his foot in the door. In terms of skill, he was never a weak player. In terms of seniority, he had 5 years in the Pro League. In terms of experience, he had been both vice-captain and captain. His only weakness was that he was still a newcomer and may not have too much influence in the team yet. However, Wind Howl didn't really have anyone better, so those 3 advantages were enough for Lu Hao to stand out. Lu Hao lived up to expectations. He performed well both on and off the field, and everyone could see his worth to Wind Howl. With the highest price transfer in the summer transfer window but never a spot out among the 24 All-Stars, he seemed to have taken a decisive step forward during the season. Coincidentally, his current All-Stars ranking was at number 17, the same as Fang Rui's last year. Lu Hao was replacing Fang Rui's position both on the All-Star rankings and in Wind Howl. Unfortunately for Fang Rui, he didn't make the All-Stars. Changing classes was damaging to a player's reputation, regardless of their skill level. However, Fang Rui's performance could still be considered satisfactory. In his very first few matches where he was getting used to the class, he could only rely on a few tricks. Following this, he had incorporated his own playstyle into the Chi Master class, resulting in improvements match after match. But he still didn't make the All-Stars. Chi Masters don't understand love, Fang Rui noted indignantly. No one could really tell whether this indignation was real or tongue-in-cheek. Feng Rui didn't seem the type to get hung up on being an all-star. As one whose style was to play dirty, Feng Rui should have expected divided opinions, leading to a smaller portion of this love. It was rare to witness the situation where Feng Rui would flip this reasoning on its head and say that those who didn't appreciate dirty play were the ones who didn't understand love. The All-Stars polls closed as the new year ticked over. With no matches, the votes did not change very unexpectedly. Most did not care about any changes in ranking within the top 24. They only cared if any at the bottom of the poll were changed. Yes, there still were some changes. The names on the last two All-Star spots, 23rd and 24th, frequently switched. This time, as the voting closed, two names squeezed in, So Yuan and Yang Kong. After years of loyalty and diligence, Yang Kong finally made it onto the All-Stars. On the other hand, So Yuan made it twice previously when he shouldn't have. This time, his performance had really stood out from the rest of the pack, and he had secured a spot in the All-Stars. This time, his true value was demonstrated, and his votes were not from fans who were hung up on a character or who wanted to be spiteful towards a certain other player. Seeing the names now at ranked 25 and 26, everyone felt that it was a shame. Those two were definitely qualified to be All-Stars. Zhang Jiali, a player in the Alliance since Season 2. Aside from his retirement during Season 8, this was the first year he had failed to make it into the All-Stars. Liu Xiaobi. This was the second time he had missed out on a spot by an inch. Lin Jingyan and Feng Rui, the former criminal duo, were now neither a combination nor teammates. However, they stood together outside the All-Star rankings. Finally, Tian Sen and the former god-level character Peaceful Hermit could not defend their last shred of glory and were also out of the All-Stars. What might be going through Tian Sen's head right now? The All-Star weekend drew near end. Chapter